Getting ready for day 3 of the Path to Presence retreat. The main program here is 5 days, and I can't believe we're already at the middle point, this day 3. So let me just get everything.
Treat.
There we go. There we go. Okay. Fantastic. So yeah, we're already here at day 3. And yes, good morning or good afternoon or good evening. We have people from joining often from all corners of the globe, which kind of is a nice segue into the topic yesterday about timing when we're sitting to practice our meditation here in the morning. For me, it might be nighttime. I often have folks in Australia and other parts of the world visiting, participating, not visiting, kind of visiting. So a review of yesterday, day 2, we talked about timing and when to set the timing for your regular meditation practice. Remembering, of course, that it's okay to be flexible. I had a couple of answers I was going to read out. Let's see, someone just emailed me one, but the ones I wrote down is Nia mentioned, I really appreciated your reminder of being flexible with timing. While I would love to set up a routine and do it at the same time each day, that's probably unlikely. I would like to aim for a morning practice, but okay with doing it before bed if the morning doesn't pan out as planned. There are a couple things about this that I think are wonderful. One is those bookends of the day, the morning and the evening. Those can be particularly fertile times to set up a practice. One, because we have a lot of habits that are quite routine in those getting the day going and winding the day down. So it can be easy to reinforce as a habit. And we tend to be at home. We tend to be in a more predictable place. There's a little less variables happening. And the other thing is this real honesty with the fact that we have this aim, but we might have a backup plan for when it doesn't happen. So, and then Christine shared that early morning to set her day and evening to wind down. So again, we have those bookends of the day and clear the mental chatter before bed. In the middle of the day, depending on where I am, it could be walking meditation in nature or my feet planted in wet sand by the beach. Just being in the now sounds lovely. The other time could be on the train heading into work with a positive mindset, podcast or uplifting music while staring out the window. So I'm loving the answers that we're getting here, where we're seeing this opening, this curiosity about what are some of the times that might work? How might this actually look for you? And the bookends of the day, the beginning of the day, the end of the day, can be great times to practice, but you can also practice on your commute. You can do walking meditation. I like to really encourage that kind of informal meditation practice, those everyday mindfulness. And we'll be talking about this more as we go, but it's also great to have a sense of your bare minimum of commitment, how much you want to show up for. And that might be something like 3 deep breaths or walking meditation or something like that. And sometimes it's nice to make use of like the idea of sitting on the train in a commute when you might be, again, I'm always using the example of doom scrolling or social media time, when it might be better spent by meditation practice, right? So yeah, some of the review, that is what Giovanni calls the offering, something that you're willing to give up to prioritize your practice. And just touching on the highlights from yesterday, we also talked about circles of care, the need to refill your own teapot before pouring cups of tea for others, if you struggle in making the time for yourself. And habit stacking, taking an audit of all your habits and looking at when there might be an opening, either a habit that you might reduce, like the offering, something you give up, or a habit that's very reliable and predictable and specific that you can use as a reminder to initiate meditation practice. And be wearing a false hope syndrome, which we just touched on now, expecting that you won't always be in the mood for meditation. There might be things that come up. Also be wearing of perfectionism. We might want to change everything at the same time. We might want to do a great job at meditation, but we want to also just be compassionate with ourselves and aware of where we're at and start where we're at. So that's my recap of the day 2. Today, we go from the question of when to another important building block of your practice, which is where. Now, I think in my experience, most people really focus on the when. And also those of you who are joining live or replay, if you didn't get around to the homework, you can add it in at any point. I think it really helps to see the diversity, or if you want to add it in now, please feel free to. Also, kind of sharing it publicly and making that commitment makes you more accountable. So a lot of people don't think about where, and it's true that you don't actually need anything to meditate. We don't need even a cushion, while it might be helpful for some. But we have this opportunity to really consciously, intentionally build an environment which really supports our meditation practice as a habit. And we also get the opportunity to revisit our why that we started with on the first day, what goals we have in our practice, what benefits we're seeking, and to make a welcoming, peaceful space, and maybe finding joy in the creation of your environment. So we can really take some time. I think this is an important place to take some time. So as I mentioned, all you really need to practice meditation is your attention, your intention. No props, nothing special is required. But having a designated spot does help with that consistency of practice. So even if you are traveling, or if your work involves a lot of travel, life involves a lot of travel, it can be helpful to pick a spot, like you always practice next to the bed or in front of the window. So even in a hotel room or something. There's also a lot of people find great joy and meaning in creating an altar. And I'll be showing you my spot, even though it's also surrounded by papers and books. And of course, the altar, the props, the cushions, they won't turn you into a meditator. But having the stuff, the gear, can add to the specialness of it. So here, as we tailor this question to make the meditation practice relevant and make it our own, so we can show up, we get to ask ourselves where we fall, how much stuff we might need if we're bare bones or we need the full kit. And so ultimately, you want to do whatever makes you show up and makes you want to come back tomorrow. So when we're creating an environment is one of the best cues for a habit. I really want you to think about the meditation practice as a habit here. When you're picking a spot in general, it can help to find a quiet spot that supports some focus, maybe where you won't be bothered too much by others in the vicinity, but not too out of the way so that you never think to go there or don't feel like making the trip, or it doesn't actually serve as a reminder because you don't even ever see it. A lot of folks aspire to practice meditation regularly outdoor, which can be really lovely, but know that it's not for everyone, as it can be very distracting and have a little bit more variables, right? Weather and temperature and other people out in the world. But that might be where you like to go to practice. I also want to give you permission to find a quiet spot in a corner of the room that doesn't seem as grand as maybe being on the beach, for example. All right, so having some stuff, I'm just going to call it stuff today, can help to do 3 things. It can provide a cue to help establish the habit. It can add to your why, providing more meaning and aligning with your motivations. And third, it can make your practice easier to keep up, more comfortable, or easier to manage the timing, sort of those very pragmatic pieces. So we'll talk about habits for a moment. Cues are the first of 4 steps in forming good habits that you want to keep. This is, of course, coming from my buddy James Clear, who's not actually someone I know, from Atomic Habits. And those 4 steps are cue, a craving, a response, and a reward. And according to James Clear, cues are tiny bits of information that predict a reward, right? And in this case, so the cue of a meditation cushion might trigger the craving for the reward. And the response might be sitting to meditate. The reward might be those benefits that you're seeking. This sense of connectedness, this sense of calm, balance, things like that. And visual cues are said to be the most effective catalyst of behavior. But some of the other cues might be an activity, like the habit stacking we talked about, a person, or a time or an emotion. In any case, you want to make your cues specific and reliable. Emotions and people are obviously a little less reliable. So activities, the visual piece is helpful. All right, I have a quote from Giovanni about effective habits need to be specific, time-bound, and ideally enjoyable. And of course, you've probably heard of SMART goals, which is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. So is that our homework for today? Yeah, actually, as we go through this is more on the end of the week, we're going to be working towards making a commitment statement, having basically like a plan for our practice, and or what's also called an implementation intention. Write it down, we make it visible. Even those kinds of visual cues can help us, right? That commitment can help us to remember to show up. There was a study run by the Dominican University in California who found that those who wrote down their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them. So ideally, meditation practice itself is the reward and the habit is enjoyable. But if it isn't, you can try noticing how you feel before and after. This getting in the habit of pausing, which I always include in my practices because I think it's really helpful. You might pause and ask yourself, paying attention to how things shift before and after the practice. Or you can also try something known as temptation sequencing. And this is the condition for extrinsic reward and pleasure. I do this sometimes with running, which I like to run, but sometimes I need to motivate myself in an external way where I might, if I'm running especially inside in a treadmill, then I might have specific shows that I only watch when I run. So that extra encouragement. You can do this with meditation too. Actually, I'm in the middle of doing this with my son with a reward chart to get him ready to school on time in the morning. And some of the rewards are things like a tickle party and a pillow fight, but sometimes even external rewards you can use as well. All right, so an altar or talismans, the stuff, this is the stuff that is more about the meaning. And if that's something, maybe you have this already, feel free to tell me where you meditate, what is it like? This is really the homework for today, is to maybe send a photograph of a place that you currently are practicing in, or you would like to try practicing in, or something that you might use in your meditation practice. If you do have an altar, you generally want to choose things that bring some joy, some inspiration, maybe a sense of safety or trust. And these are often reminders of your why, what motivates you to practice. All right, so now I'm going to somewhat awkwardly show you what it looks like where I sit to practice, which is kind of usually below the screen here. So I have, of course, my singing bowl, which I realize doesn't come through on the Zoom very well. Maybe I can figure that out. And lots of little rocks and shells and feathers. And inside my little thing, I have a journal and a pen. Sometimes I like to write things down. And I like to have the plants around my practice. There can be a lot of different, I like to be by the window. There can be a lot of different things that help. In fact, then there's the other kind of stuff that's worth having, like a meditation cushion. This is more sorts of stuff that might make you feel more comfortable. Also a great visual reminder. A cushion is helpful so that you can be more comfortable. They also have little meditation benches. I use a yoga block sometimes if I'm traveling and want something small. Sitting in a chair, having a good chair can be comfortable. There's lots of different kinds of cushions, buckwheat, cotton, excuse me. Basically, you want to have your hips above your knees and kind of have still have an arch, but a comfortable, upright posture. So we're not slumping and we're not like overly arching. If you're comfortable, then you'll continue to show up in your practice too, right? So that's important as well. It's not meant to be a marathon. You're not meant to be uncomfortable the whole way. That's definitely not going to make you continue to show up. It's not a test of endurance. So when it comes to posture, a word about that, and we'll use that in our practice today. Again, you want to work with where you're at. Same principle, having some awareness, what's going on in your body. We all have different bodies, different abilities, different pains. Things change from time to time. So maybe you need to be lying down or standing up. Maybe you need to be in a chair or with a certain extra, extra blanket or pillow or bolster of some sort. So you want to work where you're at and also with what's available to you. And sitting on a chair is fine. And a lot of people think that you have to be on the floor, but you really don't. I like to sit on a cushion because I like the posture. When you sit on the cushion, also sit towards the edge of it, not smack dab in the middle, because you kind of want a slight incline there. And I like the cushion for the visual reminder. And that's really why I use it. So yeah, letting your shoulder blades fall down your back, kind of playing with the tilt of your chin is really helpful. A lot of us walk through life like this, leaning into the future and this sort of jutting the chin out. And then people are also like this on their phones all the time. So I think these days, even though we have often a very sedentary lifestyle, sitting in meditation with a good posture is probably really helpful in so many ways, because our posture can be not great on a lot of other ways. Thinking about what you're doing with your body, whether you practice with your hands kind of folded together, where the palms are face up or face down. There are all kinds of mudras, which are like different postures in the hand, especially coming from yoga, which can have different meanings as well. And some folks use a mudra to carry intention, or it helps to keep some alertness, a little bit of energy in the body. And often a mudra might be something where like the fingers come together. In Zen, I think a lot of times they have the palms sitting on top of each other, and there's an idea of the left hand is usually the yin and the right hand is the yang, and this kind of balancing that we're doing through the hands. All right. So other stuff for meditation might be the singing bowls. Some people really like to set up an environment with music. You might like silence though. Little bits of things from nature, things that make you comfortable, the blankets, the pillows. I have a blanket that I sit on because my hardwood floor feels too hard for my knees. And I like the coziness. So thinking about setting up an environment, another thing that's helpful, which I will go through a little bit more, is a timer, which you can just use a timer on your phone. Or there's an app called Insight Timer app. So it's going to show you what it looked like. Where, and it has been free for all these years, and I'm not still I'm sure if they have a free version, but hopefully they do, because it's been a great one, because you can set the duration, and then you can have a nice little singing bowl bell or different sounds you can put at the end of it. They do have, other guided meditations in there, but I really like it for the timer. A timer might be something that's helpful to kind of have a container for your practice. So journal is helpful too. And in fact, that's our giveaway, day 3, the first giveaway that we're going to do every day now. If you keep showing up, has a giveaway. So this is the Path to Presence little journal. Journal is helpful, one, for logging your practice if you're trying to get going. And it might be helpful for any specific insight or anything you want to explore or investigate or just kind of make note of. And I think doing that also helps to integrate the practice into your daily life a little more. I don't journal every time, but there are times in my life when I'm reinvigorating my practice and I might journal a little bit more. So that's why one of my giveaways is the journal. And I've been keeping track of who's showing up and who's writing in the homework. And I have a list going already for the giveaways. I think tomorrow is my really big giveaway of the full scholarship for the 6-week program. But for today, I wanted to offer my journal giveaway to Nia, who's over here in Zoom land. Congratulations, Nia. I will reach out to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're actually live and paying attention, so that's good. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for showing up this far, and also maybe you'll continue, a little more motivation to continue showing up. So congratulations. I think it's kind of fun to offer the retreat for free and then have giveaways to really encourage you guys to show up. So so there'll be more giveaways over the next couple of days. So congratulations to Nia. Well done for showing up this far. Keep showing up. Those of you who are really hoping for the scholarship to the 6-week program, let me know. I'll make sure you're on the list. So now we're going to shift into a practice. And today's practice is a little bit different to what most people think of as meditation. So we're challenging some of those meditation myths that there's, especially the one that there's one right way to meditate. I think most folks would agree that meditation involves stillness, right? Maybe quieting the body, pausing, not moving, sitting still. And that meditation involves often closing your eyes, or this idea of turning inward. And into practice today, we're not going to do either of those things. So a little bit of a different kind of meditation, perhaps, where we are going to both work with some of the content today. We're going to work with our body and our posture and allow a little bit of movement as we settle in. This is a practice I call tracing the edges to find the center. And we're going to work with the balance and the posture, and we're going to let our eyes be open in this practice. So we're actually going to kind of engage with our environment. Having heard me mention that, if you want to pick up your computer or phone and move to a slightly different location to, sit in a more comfortable place or be more intentional in choosing your location, go ahead and do that. I won't start for another minute, give you a moment to do that. And we get to kind of work with the senses, which I think also connects into that everyday mindfulness that I think is a really great support to our practice, our formal meditation. Senses are the portals of awareness. Traditionally, in most meditative traditions, we think of 6 senses. So we have seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, or we think of it as feeling, and thinking. So the mind is another sense organ in most of the mindfulness and sort of also Buddhist traditions as well. So we're going to be connecting to the moment, to the presence through seeing. And I will guide you through a little practice after some movement. And I'm also going to read a little poem at the end. So go ahead and settle in. I'm going to take my last sip of tea and take some time to find a comfortable posture, which we're going to work with. And this posture, actually, this practice is best done sitting. If you don't mind, if you're able to, if you're comfortable. If not, we can work with it. And so sitting upright is best for this, but maybe you need a few extra things to make yourself comfortable. So go ahead and gather those things up now. And just start to pause. Get in that habit of pausing to notice how you feel now. Notice what it's like as you take your seat. Working with where you're at. So if you're able to sit upright, maybe having a little bit of space around your torso as we allow some movement. So letting your eyes remain open, but you can let the gaze soften just a little. And we're going to just start by a little gentle swaying. We're just going to sway left to right. Just allow some movement. Very rhythmic, soothing, rocking motion, left to right. And let your attention land for a moment on your actual seat, on the pelvis, at contact point with the cushion, the chair, the floor, whatever you happen to be sitting on. And just allow your body to move through space, easy, not too much. Maybe you have some any kind of number of issues that might mean you're just moving a tiny bit left to right. Either way, we're allowing some movement. And as the movement continues, maybe you might soften other parts of the body to make it a little more effortless. Left to right, and really feel how the weight shifts from the left sit bone to the right sit bone. We're moving slow enough to stay mindful of that transition. You can vary the speed a little if you'd like. And then I want to invite you to bring it in to find the center, to make the movement smaller. Just a little to the left, a little to the right. Just a little. Making sure your shoulders are soft, your jaw's unclenched, your belly is soft. Even relaxing the pelvis. Just bringing it in little by little, like a pendulum, slowing its swing. So eventually you're just tipping a little to the left, a little to the right, feeling that contact beneath your pelvis, and just getting smaller and smaller and smaller, till eventually you really will just kind of fall right into the middle, where there's equal pressure on the left and right sides of your pelvis. And you sort of find that balance spot. Once you find it, just be there, just notice. Notice that point of contact. Taking all the time you need. Notice sensations in the pelvis. And then keeping this balance between the plane left and right, we're going to allow ourselves to rock in one more direction, which is forward and backward. So just allow your whole body to tip forward, to lean backwards. Just going into this rocking, soothing rhythm once more. Sometimes a little bit of movement at the start of meditation is very helpful for discharging all the extra stuff we carry around. all the emotional reactions, all the tension in the body, all the barrage of thoughts and to-do lists. Being that left, right, as best as you're able to, just tipping forward and backward. Noticing maybe which movement feels more comfortable. We tend to have preferences. Noticing if you enjoy leaning forwards or leaning backwards. Letting the movement come all the way from that point of contact, the base of your pelvis. Whole torso just stays kind of straight. And it's said often that when we are leaning forward, we have this tendency to lean into the future. And when we're leaning back, we have this or we like leaning back rather, we have this tendency to get more easily stuck in the past, like our own personal timeline. And just as with the left and right, we are going to make this movement gradually a little smaller to try to find the center. Effectively letting the past remain in the past, letting the future remain in the future, and coming to the here and now, the present moment. So a little smaller, just tipping a little forwards and backwards. Feel that pelvis, keeping your tension there till eventually you find that middle ground. And once you do find it again, just pausing to be. And to be with the sensations, the aliveness in the pelvis. Now you have taken your seat. And feel as you sit, how sitting is such a poise of dignity, of presence. You might feel the inhale stretching up the spine, bringing a sense of openness, alertness to this upper body. And the exhale, softening, sinking into the earth, releasing any tension, letting go. Remembering to soften the jaw, unhinge the mouth, soften all the way to the root of the tongue. Letting your shoulders fall away from your ears. Maybe seeing what it's like to just slightly tuck your chin a little, take the pressure off your neck. Soften the belly. Start to really feel this fullness in the body, this 360 degrees awareness. As the breath flows, feel the ribs opening and closing. Even with this balanced, straight spine, we're sitting in the circle of the rib cage. Feel that moving outward and inward with the breath. Just staying awake and alert to what's going on in the body, all the sensations, the movement of breath. Even as we come to stillness, there's still the movement of breath. And one of my tricks I like to offer for working with body awareness, embodiment, presence, and posture is to imagine that you are sitting in a tub of Jell-O. So you don't really need to use any muscular tension to hold yourself upright. You can soften and relax just a little and let the Jell-O hold you all around. And then as you breathe in, the body gently inflates out to meet the soft edge of the Jell-O. Now we have arrived. We've taken our seat and we have arrived in our bodies as well as the present moment. So then you can shift your attention to seeing. Still with the gaze soft, just start to really notice shape, color, light. Begin by just taking in the light and shadow in your view. Note the contrasts, the quality of light. Notice if there's color to the light itself. Maybe through a window, the slant of the sun, the light in interior light, a seasonal hue, light bulb. Notice the texture. Just really taking it in. You might be drawn to one tiny little detail in your view. Or you might be taking in this soft gaze, this whole view. Just being curious, bringing an open mind, curiosity to something that's probably been in your view a lot, but you may not have actually sat and paid attention to. Bringing our attention and our intention to this very moment. Maybe you notice, as can happen with senses, that there might be a secondary response or reaction or judgment. We might already be evaluating whether this is good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant. Just noticing, maybe inviting those kinds of extra things to soften. And even letting the effortfulness of seeing soften. Let all of this light and imagery come to your eyes. The eyes are a portal of awareness. We're just noticing in an easeful, relaxed way. Keeping that balance and connection to the body. Just allow yourself to be for a few moments longer, resting in the present moment. And I'm going to read a poem from David Whyte called Blessing for the Light. I thank you, light, again, for helping me to find the outline of my daughter's face. I thank you, light, for the subtle way your merest touch gives shape to such things I could only learn to love through your delicate instruction. And I thank you this morning, waking again, most intimately and secretly, for your visible invisibility, for the way you make me look at the face of the world so that everything becomes an eye to everything else. And so that strangely, I also see myself being seen, so that I can be born again in that sight, so that I can have this one other way, along with every other way, to know that I am here. Letting this meditation also draw to a close. We don't need to necessarily open our eyes or move our bodies, but we can let this moment go and we can pause to notice how we feel. Even having an extra layer of inquiry, what is it like to conclude a practice, meditation practice in a different way? This is a little more of a approximation or a connection to the sort of mindfulness we might begin to cultivate in our everyday lives, our presence. our embodied presence, our awake alertness, our sensory perception. It's not easy to balance all of these things together. So yeah, it's a little bit of a different meditation, and tomorrow we'll work with the senses a little bit more with one of my favorite practices, which is a listening meditation. So tomorrow we'll be looking at who, and I'll be doing the other giveaway for the big 6-week program scholarship. I've decided I'm only going to do my 6-week program once a year. So this will be the only time that I'm doing it. I used to do it 2 or 3 times a year, but I'm just going to do it once a year. And for your homework today, we're going to look at where. List some locations you'd like to try for your meditation practice, any objects you think would help you show up more consistently. It could be helpful cues, something that's meaningful and connects to your why, or something that provides support, comfort, logistics. And you can answer this in either words or photos, or however you would like to, pretty much. Pausing for any last questions or comments. It's quiet over in Zoom land because everyone, I'm assuming, is peaced out. And yes, thank you everyone for joining me and continuing to show up here. Please keep it going, keep that spark of motivation, this curiosity of the beginner's mind as we explore what it means to make this meditation practice regular and relevant for you. And yeah, we've got some more questions to ask and some more ways of experiencing and exploring meditation. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.